Hi, everybody. My name is Johnny, and I'm a drug addict and an alcoholic. I guess wrong meeting. Anyway, that's not the only part of me. I'm also a conscious human being, and that's the part I want to discuss today. I'll tell you a very funny story. Right before I came down, my daughter called, and she said, Dad, I was looking through online, because my kids are so about them, they've known about this forever, but 5 minutes later she goes, wow, Dad, did you see who the speakers were? She goes, John Mackey, John Gray, Ken Wilber, Mark Gaffney, Ariana Huffington. She goes, why did they invite you? So with that vote of confidence, I will tell you what it's like to be Jonny Podell. Question, everybody remember the dawning of the age of Aquarius? Right, okay, so I don't have to go into it. And for those of you who haven't heard, I guess you're truly unconscious. But anyway, I was there, late 60s, smack dab in the middle of it, and actually took a leadership role in it. We were about change. As I'm talking to you, I'm picturing myself at the Bethesda Fountain, Central Park on Sunday, beads, hippies, Nehru jackets, bell-bottoms. We were going to change the world. We were going to end the war. We were going to end violence. We were going to end hatred. And the headlines were Vietnam, Kent State, 4 dead in Ohio, if you remember that song. And our heroes were Martin Luther King and JFK. Our battle cry was make love, not war. And our fuel was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That was my favorite part, actually. And then on the weekend, if I had time, I would try to change the world. But I loved that sex, drugs, and rock and roll. But we were serious. We were going to change the world. But what we weren't conscious. That was the setback. And things have changed. And now we are. And this young generation of consciousness seekers that are waking up today, they are going to change the world. And I'm sure many of you are part of that. And I'm very privileged to be here and to be part of that. There was another movement going on that you may have read about or remember. This was also a revolution, and this was called rock and roll. It really happened at the same time. It was a perfect storm of events, the late 60s. And I quickly played an integral part in that as well. But more on that later. That period of my life was fun. It was fast. But it was too good to last. I know it. And today I am here again to help lead this movement that is organically evolving among the youth of the world. As back then we were all about the peace and revolution, we were going to start, this generation is ready for a new kind of revolution. It's a revolution of consciousness. It has already started. I am here today to help lead the way. I'm really privileged to be here. An honor to be here, and thank you for listening. And good night. No, I'm just kidding you. My early days, I got into this racket after an uninspired career as a student and a year in teaching school. And I accidentally found myself in this business of rock and roll, and it's crazy what happened. I was a hit. But not a hit, I was a smash. I exploded. Listen to this. My first 5 clients were the Allman Brothers Band, Alice Cooper, Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, drum roll, please. No. And George Harrison and John Lennon. That was just my first week on the job. I didn't know what happened. It was a great time. It was a great time for me. And I was high, I was hot. And I was very, very, very unconscious. You don't realize those things when you're in it. You got to wake up to get it. And just to give you an example of what unconscious looks like, imagine this. So for the people that are older or who read these rock books, have any of you ever heard about the Starship? The Starship was Led Zeppelin's customized 747 Boeing jet. The interior design was like, like a sultan, like a king. And in the back of that plane was the master suite. And I was friends at that time with Jimmy Page and Robert Plant. And Jimmy Page, not trying to drop names, but Anyway, and Jimmy called and he said, Johnny, listen, I'm going to LA. I got the plane. You want to grab a ride? We can talk. I said, sure. So there we were. And this I can picture. It was so amazing. So picture this in the back of a plane, right? Forget what these Emirates airlines look like now. This was a master suite like you would like at the top of the Mandarin Oriental Hotel. And there's this beautiful round bed with purple covers on it. And Jimmy's laying in bed like the king of rock and roll. And Johnny's on the edge of the bed. And here we are. And the only other person on the plane, I think, was his girlfriend. And we started to talk as the plane was flying. And we would talk. We'd get high. We would talk. We'd get high. We weren't able to talk without getting high. Anyway. And we started to whisper. I don't know why. And Jimmy, and I kept leaning in the edge of the bed, and Jimmy just was fascinated. He wanted to know all about my life as a school teacher. And I wanted to know, what the hell do you guys do with that money? What do you possibly do with that money? And all of a sudden, our heads are so close, we could smell each other's breath. And Jimmy whispers, and he yells at his girlfriend, come in and close the door. Who did he think was going to hear us? We were 35,000 feet up in the air. In the world I lived in, the cops were always coming. They were always coming. To this day, I walk down the street. I am so clean. I'm Mr. Clean. I hear a siren. I go like this. Some things are hard to change. The rest of my resume was, a who's who of rock and roll. And it wasn't so much who I represented and managed and everything, but I lived a life. I lived a life. I partied with the rock stars. I danced with movie stars. I ate with kings. We had private planes and private jets. Everything you ever heard about, Andy Warhol, Studio 54, late nights, all night. It was good. It was good. By the way, I was 25 years old. Who could ask for more? Right? Who could possibly ask for more? I did. I wanted more drugs. And more drugs, and more drugs. And you probably know the end of that part of the story. Just as quickly as I went up, I came down, flaming and crashing like a meteorite. It's funny, I've talked about this so often, and you could probably still hear in my voice. It was really, really tough. And when it came crashing down, I'm going to give you an example of what happened. First of all, in that period of time, there was a half a dozen rehabs. There were a dozen arrests. I was thrown out of 6 hotels in 6 days in Los Angeles. Still standing record. I was taken off so many planes with handcuffs. And once the charge was attempted hijacking. I don't even know. It was a tough time, but the toughest was, by now I was a total drug fiend, addicted to smoking cocaine, addicted, the diary of a drug fiend. And one day on 57th Street, where Jonny Podell had been king, I needed to get some paraphernalia to smoke the cocaine. And there was a smoke shop on 57th between 5th and 6th. And I was dirty and I was filthy and undignified. And by then I had lost all the nerves in my foot. They call it floppy foot, usually last stages of alcoholism. So there I'm walking, like this, dirty, feeling like a bum. And then I finally found the smoke shop. And by then my eyes, I couldn't keep, everything was twitching. And I remember looking in the window, having to actually hold my eyes open. And this is where I had been king. I felt like a bum. I smelled like a bum. And everybody treated me like a bum. And the year was 1983. And all was lost. And the only thing I was left with was my life. And at that moment, God came into my life in a very interesting way. I received in the mail a framed a caricature of myself. By the way, I looked the same. Skinny, hunched over, unshaven, scraggly hair, funky hat. But I was standing up in a boxing ring. I had boxing shorts on, boxing gloves, and I was standing victorious over the heavyweight championship of the world. And the caption read, "It's not the size of the cat in the fight that counts. It's the size of the fight in the cat." And this cat had one more life. And I'll tell you that I stood up and smiled like this, and I said, here we go again. And you know, I was blessed. Not everybody has this story. And I got clean. And for the next 25 years, my life was a roller coaster. I was clean, I was not clean. Not so much drama, but for every step forward, I took a step back, and I was doing good. I rebuilt my career. I rebuilt my relationships, rebuilt my thing with my kids, my 2 children. And so now I'm divorced. Tough time. Planning my son's first birthday party. I'm going to go home victorious, show her she shouldn't divorce this drug addict, be there for my son, squeaky clean. Well, I stayed up all night smoking freebase cocaine and didn't show up. And it wasn't so many years later, I planned my daughter's bat mitzvah. Yes, Mark, I'm Jewish. And that's the first question he said to me. I said, do you want me to speak there? He goes, are you Jewish? So anyway. He said, are you going to be singing Hava Nagila? I don't know. That's what he asked me. I'm just kidding. So I planned my daughter's bat mitzvah. And there, I did come pretty good. I did come good. I had the speech, I had everything. But 5 days later, arrested, Rikers Island. I mean, I just couldn't get any traction. I'm just telling you, it may sound funny now. It actually doesn't feel so funny to me right now. And, but I was making it. You know, on the surface, there were people that probably didn't even know. The cops all knew. And then in the year 2009, the beast, as I call my addiction, roared. And he roared like that MGM lion. He roared loud. I had a surgery on my hand, not a big deal, but with the surgery came the pain pills. And the pain pills were a slippery slope for me. And they eventually did me in. I was alone in my house, dirty, filthy, malnourished, underweight, paranoid, psychotic, hearing things, seeing things. Everywhere there were cops. That's why I didn't leave my house. And the only thing I had, the only interaction were pharmacies and doctors. They call that doctor shopping. 12 pharmacies, 15 doctors, and always thinking it's a felony, you're going to get arrested. Oh my God, long-term imprisonment. And again, God intervened in my life at the worst time. And my 2 kids called and they intervened. And I said, yes, I've been lying to you and lying to everybody. I've been using those pills. By the way, I was taking 700 pills a week. Crazy. I weigh 120 pounds. And I owned up to it. And as we know, and Michael, as you know, the truth set me free. And there's a line I wrote, and I just wanted it to say that I wanted to remember it. Not that important. If it was that important, I would have remembered it. My girlfriend wrote that part. Otherwise, I would have remembered it. Anyway, there I went, walking up those steps to rehab. By the way, I did not fly in on the wings of victory. None of us did. Wasn't feeling so good. I was 60. I felt like 90. My legs felt like elephant legs walking up those steps. I knew I could stay sober, get sober. You know, I had to for my children and my legacy. But my life, this Johnny, fun, excited, inspired, that was over. I was going to, what athletes call, play out my string and just go happily into the sunset as a grandpa. And but that wasn't the case. I learned to meditate first day. Boom, game changer, game changer. Third day of meditation, boom. In my mind, not in the meditation room, in my mind, I met my soulmate. More on that later. Pretty provocative story. And we watched TV one night, and I saw a movie. In the movie, a line said, it was the first of 3 lines of my trilogy. It said, God's given you this life, and now it's time to pay it back with interest. I don't know about you, Just stopped me in my tracks like an elephant gun. Been living interest-free, that kind of life. And then my longtime idol, Muhammad Ali, his quote was, I read it in the newspaper, service to others is our rent for being on this planet. That spoke to me. I already knew. And then I heard Piers Morgan interview some big, rich, famous movie star. How much do you make? How much you're worth? The guy didn't answer. He was flustered, but he said, to whom much is given, much is required. And I knew right then the purpose of my life was to be of service to mankind, to humanity, to a little old lady on the street, to anybody in recovery, to any one of you. Test me. Give me more opportunity to serve. And I got out of there, and I approached my new spiritual awakening with the beginner's mind. I'm sure you've heard about that thing, beginner's mind, the possibilities are endless. So I started with a clean slate, and I went and I studied Kabbalah. And I mean, that blew me wide open. And I learned and started to practice TM twice a day. And I was in the zone. I was so in the light. If I thought of you, the next second you called me. I was manifesting everything. I had decided to be abstinent, and I guess there's some kind of thing, like if one goes too high, the other goes a little lower. And anyway, and maybe the abstinence was part of it, but I was alive. I was in the zone. I was one with God. I was always about oneness. It's just in the past, the one was me. So things changed a little bit, you know? Always about oneness. I know you guys think you invented it. No, I had it way before you. Anyway, one day, Father's Day 2 years ago, I met the soulmate. And she's here tonight, and her name is Allie Storm. And Allie started to tell me a crazy story about a white light, immediate, really almost impossible to believe, spontaneous spiritual awakening. A man had come up to her and handed her a book on the street. She went home and read it. The book was I Am the Word, a channel text by Paul Selig. You know that, Michael, right? She had this experience, an energetic experience from a book, not only intellectual. Allie eventually got me to read the book, because I, of course, was thinking about having sex with her, so I would have done anything she said. And I read the book, and 20 pages into the book, boom, the guides that they channeled were in my apartment. This time it wasn't a psychotic break. I'm on the regular couch with a regular book, with my regular bookcase, and all of a sudden I had company. Crazy. And what I learned from the guides were, I learned a lot of things. I learned that you can't be in light and see your brother in darkness. That was pretty amazing. I learned how to dismantle the structures of fear. Please wrap up. Damn, I just had the good part coming. And so one thing led to another. I went to more spiritual teachers, more healers, etc. And then Allie and I would stay up all night talking about this. And slowly, the service that I wanted to do became clear. And we created a mission. And our mission is to lend my 45 years of experience in rock and roll, help make the consciousness movement fun, exciting, and sexy, and lend my infrastructure and experience to all the healers and teachers that are out there, enlarge their platform, and anybody else who requires it. I'm going to finish up now. The way my life, the arc of my life was, there was rock and roll, I guess a lot of us. Then there was technology, Apple, and now there's consciousness. Consciousness is the new rock and roll. Let's wake up and shake up the world. Thank you. Good night.